2022. Thank you for being here. And we're still okay to proceed?
Yes, sure.
All right, so I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. And the first thing on our agenda would be, let's all stand for the flag salute.
You're on the screen.
Oh,
You know what it is.
I was looking over there, but there's no.
Not all the way up.
Thank you. It's the other way around. Okay.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of
to
the United States of America.
America.
To the republic
the republic for
For which
which
it
it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice.
and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. So if we could have roll call, please.
Tim Dean,
Here.
Bruce Angel,
Here.
Mike Thomas, Mike Thomas.
He's in the minute.
I just didn't.
Okay.
Oh. That's part of it. That's.
Mike Thomas,
Yeah.
Here.
Ivan Van Ornen,
Unfortunately.
here, Melissa Johnson, here.
All right, thank you very much. So next item on our agenda would be approval of the agenda. So chair requests a motion for approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion on that? No discussion? All in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So no opposed. So wonderful. Now we'll move on to our one and only item on our workshop discussion item, which is the 2022 preliminary docket presentation and discussion.
Thank you, Commissioner Dean. I don't have an actual presentation on the screen, so it's what you have in your agenda packet. So we're going to go over I guess I kind of have to. So we originally had 4 city-initiated proposals that will be submitted under the 2022 comprehensive update docket cycle. You'll see as we go through, it's actually getting reduced, and so I'll tell you why when we get to those items. So we can start off with the first item, the city-initiated proposal for the York Park rezone. And this is the city is proposing the rezoning of 0.56 acres from public, semi-public zoning to residential moderate capacity. The parcel is currently owned by the city of Arlington and the eastern parcel of the J. Rudy York Park out in Smoky Point. The intent is to change the zoning so the property can be sold to privately or from the city to a private owner. So with the zoning remaining public, semi-public, no one would be able to develop, so it makes it hard to market that. So that's the reason behind the park rezone. And if the request is granted, then the city's comprehensive plan, future land use map, and the city's official zoning map would be amended with this when council, or when if it gets voted to be approved, when council makes that motion, then the maps would get changed. So there is an attachment with the York Park. If you would like, except I don't have it. That's what I should have had on here. If you give me a minute, I will pull that up. And I'll show you the maps for each one. So this first one will just be a little slower to get to. And it tells you how my week's going. This is not here. Or so I thought. Just hang on a second. Sorry. All right, I think I'm finally ready to share. All right, can everyone see the map that's on the screen now?
Yes.
I
Okay,
can.
so this area that's hashed, the hashed mark right here is the parcel that is proposed to be rezoned to the Armad, which is the next, which is around the, which also is bordering on two sides of the parcel right now. So it's just an extension of the current zoning that's next to it. And then I'm just asking if commissioners have any questions or need further information on this proposal.
Yeah, in the last 6 times we've seen it.
It's my
Right.
first.
That was one of the comments I was going to kind of make, that, we have reviewed this several times and it's nothing different than what we've seen prior
Okay.
to this, right?
Perfect. Then I can go to the next one. So the next item on the docket is the Highland Drive map amendment. So this was originally to correct a map error along Highland Drive. So in 2020, when our zoning map and future land use map got updated with the other zoning changes, it inadvertently was changed. There was a rezone that went through up there, the TikTok rezone, which I'm sure you remember as well, from Greg Stewart's property. So the rezone was denied by council, but the map got changed on accident. So we know that the map is not correct. If someone came in, they would not be able to develop under the high density, but we just want to clean up the map and make that change. So I originally had it on the docket. I thought it had to go back through council for approval because of the map being officially signed by the mayor. But after talking to legal counsel with the city, we're able to do it with a minor corrections exemption straight through council because it was never adopted or never recommended for approval there, or they denied it. So it's not anything that we're changing. We're actually just correcting it back to the way it should be. So we found that out after I sent out all the notices and all of that information for the docket. So if you hear anything from the public, now you have that knowledge that we're going straight through council. So this will be a council agenda item next Monday on March 7th to make the correction through a corrective ordinance to ordinance 2020-019, which is the one that originally, or how that map change originally came about. So right now we're removing item number 2 from the preliminary docket, if planning commission is good with that.
We're dealing with it through as a scrivener error to the
Yes.
map.
Yeah, I should have said that. So it's under our amendments, chapter 20.96.015 under minor corrections are exempt, and it's for typographical or technical error or scrivener's error. So this was just a technical error with the mapping when it went through.
Yeah, I can't see why anybody would object to this.
Okay. Yeah, great. Perfecto.
I just have a question.
Sure.
So looking at the map, I was wondering, because I never saw the map before, how it was decided where the property would be divided for high density residential versus, because I thought that it was like 300 feet from the bluff. But I just didn't know. I was just curious. I was surprised that it was that far close to the Highland Drive.
Yeah, so we took it back to the original. So that's where it was on the previous map before the 2020 change. So we left it at that the same mark because that's what was approved in, I actually don't know what year when that was approved.
Okay.
Prior to that. So we just took it back to what it was supposed to be.
And Mike, it actually lines up with all the other frontages along Highland Drive.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so
But
that's really how it was presented.
But I was just For some reason, it was stuck in my mind that when we were discussing this a long time ago, when it first happened, that I thought it was like 300 feet, but it does make more sense to line up with property lines.
Yeah, that's what we ended up doing.
So this is good. I don't have to recuse myself.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking as well. And then item number 3, kind of the same thing, but just a little bit different. The Lindsay annexation map amendment, it was my understanding that you do the annexation and then you come back with a map change. But when I read a little bit farther into it after discovering the other map issue, it's only if it gets rezoned. So we're not rezoning the underlying zoning. We're using the pre zoning of the Lindsay annexation area is remaining the same as, so it's going to come into the city with the pre-designation that it has right now of the residential ultra low capacity with the master plan overlay. So since there's no change in zoning, it doesn't have to go through a map change. So that is from RCW 35A.14.140 allows with the ordinance when council adopted the ordinance to approve the annexation, it automatically changes the map as long as there's not a rezone. So I thought it was all map changes and it's just if the property is getting rezoned. So I apologize for putting that on the docket as well. It's easier to take it off, I guess, than add them. So that one I would also like to have it come off because it already was approved on February 22nd by council, so it'll automatically get changed.
Okay.
Any questions? Okay. And now we get down to the development regulations amendment. So I have updated the spreadsheet from the last time that we discussed this a month or so ago. So I can share that on the screen. It's a little bit more exact. I actually have code sections, code section numbers and words that are really, it pretty much describes exactly what I'm looking to change within each section. I would like to hold the caveat that there's things in here that are going to get changed that we don't know yet. So just because it's not listed doesn't mean it might not get changed. There's a lot of areas that if you're in 20.12, it's going to reference you to a different chapter. So if we change that chapter, then we're going to have to change it in 2012 where I might not have found that yet. So there are things that still might get added, but this is the bulk of the changes. And since this is the workshop, I will go over them unless you want me to save it for the hearing to go over, or if you want to hear it twice, I can do it twice. I will leave that up to you. I have no problem going over it. I can talk about this all day. So
Right.
it's more up to you. If you want an overview or have me go over the highlights, I can do that as well.
Right. I think what mostly we would like is, at least I'll speak for myself at this point, and please, if other commissioners wish to speak up, please do, is that if you could brief this for us so that we can get an idea of the overview of it. Maybe you can emphasize on some of the more in-depth changes than what might be just superficial.
Yep, so I can, yeah, I'll definitely do that. So there's probably there's probably about 4 or 5 chapters. It's really, we're only changing, we've been the Community and Economic Development Department forever. So everything says Community Development Director. And so we're just changing that language. That's going to get changed throughout the entire code. So some of these changes in the chapter are just that and nothing more. The definitions, we're adding all of the new, so some of the bigger things is all the permitted uses will now have a definition. So we're not taking away definitions, we're adding permissible use definitions and going through and finding some other key terms that we use a lot that people always ask, like, what does that mean? What does this mean? And we don't have a definition. So we kind of just use Google or whatever. And we're really wanting to get that in the code on what our definition is of those, of the items that we really want them to use our definition for and not someone else's. So that's really, so the definitions will get added to quite a bit. The next chapter that's a pretty big change is chapter 2040, which is the permitted use table. So I know we just updated it and we're not really looking at changing the uses. We are going to do a quick overview of the uses to make sure that that's everything that is how it's laid out is what we want. We will be adding some more uses to the commercial corridor. We did a really quick update in 2021 for it. So that will get added to. The main change with the permitted uses is we're breaking it out. So it's not one table. It won't be one table anymore. So we've taken the residential zones and put them onto one table with just residential. And then it'll be like 3 or 4 pages of just residential instead of having industrial uses in there and other things that have nothing to do with the residential zone. So that's the first part that we have completed, and each section will have its own. So we have one for residential, one for commercial and mixed use, one for industrial, one for park space, and we have a miscellaneous one that I haven't decided what we're naming it yet, and that will include the airport, the AF zone, the MS zone, which is the medical services, and the business park. Those are kind of oddities that don't really fit into any one category. So I'm trying to group those on a kind of a special district, but we already have a special district in the mixed use code, so we don't really have a name for that part yet. So that's the major change of the permitted uses. It's more the layout and the formatting versus the changes to the actual permitted use table at this point. And then we have, actually, I'm just going to scroll down a little bit so I don't miss anything.
And that just makes that permissible use table so much more user friendly. So you're not having to go through every page looking for what you're
Right.
wanting. It categorizes it, so it's great.
So that's the thing I was going to say. We get a lot of people that come in that they'll say, I'm looking to build apartments or townhomes or just residential. And then we have to hand them or send them to a 36-page document to scroll through and find what they can do, when it's going to go to a 4-page document for them to scroll through. And so that's what we're hoping is that it becomes more user friendly. These ones are all pretty simple changes. It's like a 1-word. We don't have certain chapters anymore, and we still have them in there. So it's really like I guess you could call it like a code cleanup, kind of a scrub of different documents. Is most of this is things that we just never removed or never realized they were at until you go line by line through it. So that's what most of these are. Right now we have 1 word in the airport protection district. The supplemental use is another big one that we're going to add to. So we're adding to the section of the change of uses to better define what a change of use means and what the procedure is for permitting. We're trying to reduce, right now, if someone comes in for a change of use, it's a full zoning permit. We don't have any other mechanism. And so I feel that that's too much. They shouldn't be charged $2,300 for a zoning permit. So I want to get some change of use criteria and what type of permitting so they can come in for a little bit less and be able to, if they need design review, then they would have to do the full design review. But we could just do a site plan review with the building permit and have that go really, really quickly for a change of use, but still be able to address parking and landscaping and site access, ingress, egress, those kind of things on the site plan and make it more official, but at the same time, not charge them a full zoning permit amount. And then this chapter, I just have to change the zoning district. So that's the other change throughout the entire code. Some of the chapters got updated with our new zoning map designations and some of them didn't. So we're going to go through and make sure they all line up. And then we're also adding some information or some additional process on administrative conditional use permits. And then we're going to look at, I don't know the exact code we're going to add, but I'm going to look at the state bill that was recently passed and possibly add additional language to ADUs. So we can possibly get some ADUs built if people want to do that. And then I'm gonna address the outdoor storage. We get this question a lot on when you can do outside storage in the industrial areas. So I wanted to define some specific requirements that they have to do for screening. If it's behind a building, in front of a building, there's probably 50 questions that we have over outdoor storage that we just don't have in code and be easy to hand them something. So we're gonna look at that as kind of an issue in some situations. And then adult family homes, we're adding a section for adult family homes on the requirements for that. Mobile sales and delivery, we had it under a different permitting process, so we're putting that under the administrative conditional use. We're adding a electric vehicle section. We already have one, but we want to add to it and add exact like stall amounts. Right now it was written before its time, really. It was actually a cool code that we had written quite a while ago, but we're just going to add to it for commercial, industrial, and multifamily developments. And then we're also going to actually add a section for outlets to be put into single family home garages ahead of time. So they don't have to plug in or use the outlet, but it's there behind their wall, or the outlets on the wall. And so when they want to use it in the future, all new houses then would have it ready to go whenever this change happens. So that's right now for new single family, or probably if someone's remodeling and touching the wall, then we would have them install that as well. And then we have a lot of places in the code that have the public works director approving civil construction. And that's a change that's been in our department for at least 6 years, about 6 years. So we have we have Nova Heaton, who does the private development side of the civil review, and the public works department does the public side. So they'll stay doing the public side, but a lot of our information in here has the public works director approving the site civil. We're changing that to the community development director or designee, which is usually no. The community development director never changes, so they can have whoever sign what they want. And then we no longer have some chapters again, so that's a pretty big, some pretty big additions there. And then the design standards is kind of just getting reorganized. So in our code right now, we have general design standards for like 2 or 3 pages, pretty general, and it goes, and then it references our design standards notebook that we kind of have it separate from our regular code. So that the design standards aren't changing, but I'm gonna change the language a little bit in the first 3 pages, and then the rest, like there's about 6 to 8 pages that are all address infill development in Old Town residential, which now we have the new Old Town residential design standards. So just changing that chapter to reference our new documents. And then there's also a couple other places I'm just going to add in design standards that we don't currently have listed, which are the Olympic Avenue design standards. The Old Town residential design standards will be new, and then our regular development design standards across the board. So just want to make sure that those are all listed and referenced on. That's where people need to go to view the standards to design their buildings. And then we have very little fence requirements, so we are getting a full fence section. That's super exciting. you wouldn't believe that actually really excites me. Density and dimensions is a full rewrite of the chapter. So it's entirely new zoning districts. So there's right now we have our table that has the old zoning districts. And this one kind of goes a little bit deeper because we changed chapter 2036 to allow for, like, the RMOD has certain square footage and density. So the RMOD, the RMC, RLC, all of them got new square footages, so it doesn't match our table right now. So that's why it's a full rewrite. So we're rewriting it to meet the densities and lot size, square footage that we've already adopted in the code. And then some of these things in here are just to address fences again. We've had some concern with some flag lots lately. So just kind of addressing what we're kind of struggling with to get answers or to prevent certain types of development that we're not wanting. So right now we don't clearly define what a primary and accessory building are, so that will be our definitions as well. And we're having people wanting to put garages and detached garages between their house and the street. So we're going to address that in this area. It just happens to be on larger lots, and then they're wanting to add more things. Nothing really in that. Streets, this is a big section that we're going to be adding to. We're going to have the table. We have a table within this chapter that has different street designations or classifications. And then the chart goes across for how much the right-of-way width is, the pavement width, curb width, planter, sidewalk, like the width of every street that is available for private development or private that gets dedicated. So we do have public streets in there that go to our public work standards right now. But what we're looking at changing is we're allowing some, lack of a better word, missing middle housing. So those townhouses, the triplexes, the fourplexes. And so what we're running into is our street standards aren't really matching up to get them the density that we're requiring on the property with a 50-foot wide right of way. So the two can't really go together. So we don't have any, we're working on some right now just to see what they're going to look like, but we don't have anything in concrete yet on what widths are going to be like. It'll be somewhere between an alley and the 50-foot. So that's pretty much all so between 20 and 50, we just don't know what it is at this point. And then addressing the private access tracts. So right now, private access tracts can only serve 4 single-family homes on a private. So we're looking into, what state law says, what other places are doing, and seeing if we can get the private access tract down a little bit for townhouses and some other types of that middle housing, so they can actually get the density we're requiring through our new zoning. So that's a pretty big change. Nova's working on the street details. So that's, so we're pulling in from all our different areas there. There are some new FEMA maps that came out, I believe in 2020 or 2021. So I don't think our floodplain development, that got recently updated in 19. So I think we're good there. I just want to make sure that the new maps are listed there or where to find them. So that's kind of just a double check. Signs, all we're doing with signs is changing the zoning and adding in commercial corridor. So right now we don't have a commercial corridor for signs or zoning for signs. It's under the mixed use. I'm trying to figure out how to. So when you build in the commercial corridor area, it falls under the mixed use development regulations. So that's where the signage can come from. But what we're experiencing is an existing business that was in highway commercial is now in commercial corridor, and they want to amend their sign, or it's a change of use and it's just going from business to business, where we can't make them change to mixed use yet. So that's the section that we need to address, is for the commercial corridor, is to address basically the underlying properties that can change a sign without having to comply with the mixed use development regulations. So that's what we're looking at adding there. And then changing all of the new zonings, designations, and making sure that there's nothing that needs to change with those. Most of them don't. I think Armaud's the only one that we have to add. The rest of them are pretty similar in uses and all of that, with they kind of line up better with the old zoning and the new zoning designations. So we'll just have a couple of sections there. Parking is going to get completely changed as well. So since we changed the permissible use table to be the residential, commercial, how we broke that up, we're kind of going to do the same thing with the permitted use table. or the parking table. So the parking table used to go off of the use codes. And so now we're just gonna use the same uses down that we've used at the permitted use table, and then just use the same parking. So right now we haven't changed any parking, we've just redone the tables. So then we're gonna go through, we have a couple blank areas that we need to fill in on some uses that we didn't. I combined some permitted uses and also broke some apart. And so we just need to go through and fill in some of those parking ratios. And screening trees, same thing. Once the permissible use table changes, this table changes as well. So this one we're looking into kind of simplify we have a pretty complex screening table right now, or maybe not so much complex for sometimes us to figure out, but it's very confusing for the customer to figure this out. So we're still going to keep our same screening types. We have A, B, and C, I think right now. So we're not changing the screening types, just trying to make it easier kind of make it more general. If you have a residential versus you're next to a commercial or next to an industrial, it's going to be straight across the board no matter what zone you're in. It's just I'm going to try to work something that way. So we can, it can be more consistent across the board. And let's see. We have a new Cascade Industrial Center has transportation fees. So we're adding that to it's in the planned action, but I wanted to put it into the code. The critical areas ordinance, it's basically the table that's getting updated. So the Department of Ecology has new guidance. So it's just, they have a template basically that you drop their information right into it. So that table will get changed for buffers and setbacks. The annexation, we have a 3-sentence process in our code for annexation. We do have procedures off the side of our code. So we're taking the procedures that we have been following through something that Mark developed, and we're basically just putting that into the code so people can actually see what they need to do and follow it through the process on what if they're looking at annexing. And then the mixed use development regulations is the last one, I guess, that has some major changes. We've just found some little tweaks. These ones are kind of, I couldn't really call out a page number or anything. We're just, we're finding where when it got originally developed, which it's not funny, but I kind of typed that up the first time. So it's kind of funny. There's just some things that we missed. So there's a couple place types that don't have maybe like a commercial use, but you have to have a commercial use. So we're going to be adding some of those things in. And then with some of the building, we've had 4, I think, go through permitting. So now that we've seen a couple go through, there's just a few tweaks we need to make here or there. That's why I kind of left these general. It's not really any one table or one place type. It's just we need to look at all of them to make sure that what we've reviewed against in those areas is matching up. And then we have a map change to, it's not a zoning map change because that's already on our zoning map under the commercial corridor, but we have some mapping to change on the neighborhood corridor, which is Smoky Point Boulevard, and I don't list it, and the place type over on 204th, which I don't know off the top of my head. When we change it to commercial corridor, there's just a couple properties that weren't shown on the mixed use development regulations mapping. So we're just going to make a couple of those changes to match what we currently have on our zoning map for the transects. The what?
Regulating plan.
Yes, the regulating plan. Thank you. So it's just to tell them if they're in a T4, T5, that kind of thing. So that's what the maps within the regulating code are. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
So I appreciate you going through that. And so this is a project that's kind of been on your desk for a little while, right? It's a pretty big project.
This has
And I
been
know
on my
that it was a high
desk.
priority.
Yes, this has been on my mind since 2015, I think.
So it's been a high priority for you. And
Yes.
I know it's a big job, so I appreciate you going through this. One of the things is that along with Commissioner Angel and myself, it looks like that when I click on the link to this, it's a corrupted file. So I can't get it to open up to where I can read it. And so I'm just wondering if once you kind of get all of the fine tuning done on this, if there would be a possibility for us to have access to like the old Title 20 information and then the new Title 20 information so that we can kind of do a side-by-side comparison. Is that something that would be possible?
It is possible.
Okay.
So I can, so everything in yellow is things that are complete. So this is actually my working document.
Oh, okay.
So as I go through, I'm just highlighting different things. I think, yeah, I can send this to you now so you know what the changes are. And then, so the link to the folder isn't working.
Right. It just seems like when I click on it, it comes back to me that it's an error.
Like the
And then-
shared folder that I did for planning commission.
Right. And then it looks
Okay.
like when Bruce clicks on it, it comes back in a foreign language. So it's difficult for us.
Yeah, I can,
I don't have anything to read and unfortunately Bruce can't understand anything that he's looking at. So
I don't know why not. I can email you the PDF, all the
That would be
commissioners.
great.
I can, or the Word document. I think I have it in Word. So it doesn't matter to me if you guys have the Word or PDF. So I can send that to you right now with what it is right now. And then as I go through, I'm trying to complete each chapter at a time, but some things take more research. So that's why I've kind of been jumping around.
Okay.
But I can send it to you. I have a current, I went before I started this, I went through and created Word documents for each chapter of the code.
Okay.
And then copied them all for the ones that I'm going to be changing. So I do have a clean copy of the Word document of the current code. And then I also have another folder that is the same code numbers, but the changes.
Okay. That would help. That'd be helpful. At
Okay.
least for me. Are there any other commissioners that would wish to receive this?
Can you
Yeah,
just
it-
send it- just-
I can just send it to everybody. It shouldn't be a big, it shouldn't be a big document. And then I'll just send, like when they're complete, I'll just send you both. So one will say, like updated or revised or version. I might just do like
Okay.
version 1 and so that I can keep track of what version we're on. So I'll say current. It'll say current after the one that's current there, and then I'll rename the other one to have the name with version 1. And then you'll see, and then if I make changes to it, then I'll do it version 2. So then that way you guys know that there's changes to it. So that's how I was going to keep track of them anyway. So as a chapter gets done, I have no problem forwarding it on to you. It's just that I don't think I have anything 100% complete. The permitted use is 90%. We just haven't, Mark and I haven't had a chance to sit down and go through to see if so once I broke the table out, there are some uses that I was like, I don't know if we're really wanting that use here. When it was in the table, it was, I think, harder to see that. So when I broke it out into the different categories, there's some uses that I kind of was like, I don't know if that's really our intent. So it's not, you would see everything's marked. So anytime we change anything, you're going to see it in red. And so it's we're not just going to change it and then not have that change documented. So we just have to sit down and go through that portion of it, and then that chapter will be completely done as far as what I would have proposed for it. And then obviously you guys have the chance to review and discuss and whatnot there.
Sounds good.
You
Thank
can
you.
create a new file in SharePoint or just send them out as individual
not-
documents.
I think I'll just do it there. The SharePoint's not working, right?
Well, yeah, we need to get it working, but yeah, it
Yeah,
doesn't.
so the first
Although I
one
would-
reason the SharePoint isn't working for Tim and Bruce, but it is for Yvonne and Melissa,
Right.
and I'm not sure about Mike. Mike, were you able to get into the shared folder that I sent out?
No,
Okay. So 2 are working and 3 are not.
Yeah, I just went to access mine and it just has an error code.
Okay.
It didn't give me anything unusual. It just said error, which
It's
is
just the same,
Because I
the
send it
same one
all.
got sent to me, Dean.
Okay. Because I send everything in one email. I just type in your guys' names and then it goes out. And
Oh.
so I did all 5 and then sent it. So I'll work with IT and see if they know on why you're getting an error. There might be a setting or something that I can change or do something that's really easy. Otherwise, as the chapters get done, I'll just send it to you individually. It's just kind of, it goes back and forth. But I also had a change to the schedule on this one. So the York Park rezone is scheduled to go to a public hearing on March 15th with Planning Commission. And then it's gonna immediately go to council for the final docket will go to council in April. And then we're gonna start, and we are gonna turn around right after the meeting. So final docket goes to council on March 28th and April 4th. And then we're gonna turn around with the York Park rezone and bring it immediately back to you on April 5th. To go through April, and then May adoption, hopefully at council, or discussion, I guess, at that point. But I did move the code amendments out a month. So you won't see, it won't come back to you. I mean, I'm showing this as part of the preliminary docket on what we're doing, but the actual work on it won't really be probably produced until April. And then it'll come back to you at the full, with all the changes done, we'll come back to you in your May Planning Commission meeting. So I pushed it out a month. And then hoping for adoption in June with council.
okay.
So I did separate the rezone from the development regulations. It's just, I didn't have the time. I haven't had the time to get the work done on the code changes. And I needed that extra month.
I completely understand. It is a very large project and
if worst case scenario, it might happen to go one more. I'm hoping not. My goal is to have everything out to you guys in May for a workshop and public hearing in May. If something happens where we're really close, but just need another week or 2, we might push it off again, but I'm hoping that's not the case. That's not my goal.
so just so I'm clear, the only recommendation we'll be sending to council will be in the March, right? So
Yeah, so the docket, we will need recommendation for the docket for items 1 and 4, because 2 and 3 are coming off. So we're only going to forward, I'll renumber them for the hearing next week. And then also going to council, they'll only see the 2 items. So it'll just be the York Park rezone and the development regulation changes.
okay.
And so that we will need a recommendation after the public hearing on March 15th for the docket itself.
Got it. All right. Any further questions or any further discussion on?
I have a quick question, Mr. Chair. I'm a little unclear as to, I mean, a lot of the things in here are, this is the item we want to change.
Right.
But obviously the change isn't there yet.
Right.
How are you creating separate documents for those, or expanding what you got here, or how?
I can
What
show
form is
you.
that gonna come to us?
I'll show you. Would you like to wait a second to show? I can't. I will show you an example of 2040 because that's the closest one I have done.
What number was that?
2040. 2040, the permitted use table.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That is the, why isn't it? So, oops, not that one. I can't go away. I can't get out of here. Oh my God. Sorry, I lost it. So this is how you will see it when it comes through. So this is 2040. So everything that's changed is in red. So it's underlined. If it's crossed out, it's getting deleted. If it's underlined, it's being added. And then what I did, this is why I said this one is the most complete, is because you'll get an explanation on the side. I don't think my comments are on. Just a second, I have to show you the, I can't see the whole,
You just click the bar on the.
I can't see the whole screen with the zoom bar on the top. There we go. Sorry, I just had to move the zoom bar.
So in your comments, you give the logic.
Yes.
Explanation.
Yep, so I will show you, this is probably one of the most intense ones that you will see. I just have to get down to the actual table.
And this is such a large undertaking. Are we going to each meeting between now and whenever we consider for a vote, going to get pieces of it to go over? So we know in advance from a meeting which
That's-
sections you want to look at?
We can, I thought that I asked that when I brought it to you guys a couple months ago. And it was one package deal is what you wanted to see. So that's what I was preparing for.
All right,
But we can change that, and as I get them done, we can definitely bring them. But this is what you will see. So this, basically the entire table is gone because it's getting reformatted. So on the side, you will see why and how and where it moved.
yeah, okay.
And so that's what, and then down here is the new one that shows what it looks like. So these are just underlined in black because this is what we're proposing to replace the other table with. So right now I did not change anything in here. This is
Mhm.
straight from our current code with no changes. So now if we go and change this, then it will either be crossed out in red or something added in red. So that will show you the change. So the changes to get to this are all documented up above. And then in here, we will make changes to show you if we've added or subtracted something from the RMOD or the RHC or wherever that is. But at least you can kind of see kind of a look of what this is going to look like.
Yeah, I think when we talked about that is one big document that I, for one, underestimated how big the document would be. And it's sort of
Yes.
like a fire hose.
Yeah, I think there's the main chapters are 2040,
Mhm.
44, 48, 52, 76, and 72. That those, but if those come separately, the other ones are like Community Economic Development Director. Or we changed the airport I asked them to do a review of their own code and they wanted it to change to Arlington Fly-In instead of NWEEA or whatever that is, one word. So you'll see it obviously, but I don't think that's gonna take a lot of review. So I can group them, maybe do one big one with like 2 or 3 small ones, and then do one big one and 2 or 3 small ones, something like that. But we don't really have a lot of meetings and workshops to review them at before we're coming back, because it's March. So you will have like April and then coming back for ready to go for approval at a public hearing in May. So there's not that many. So there's basically 3. We can use the meeting as maybe more of a workshop for that. But it'll still be a meeting, but it'll be a discussion item on the meeting or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Amy. I appreciate it. Any
Yep.
other questions from other commissioners? Okay, I appreciate it again. I know that's going to be a big job and a lot of hard work. So getting it sometimes the way that you described it just now, even if we just receive it, I feel for myself anyway, if I receive it in that fashion that you just described, I think that I could be able to look it over on my own at my own pace, right?
Yeah,
So-
I like that.
And I do want to recommend to the other commissioners that they take some time to review this as much as they can and then bring your questions and or comments to the workshops at that time, as opposed to reviewing everything at each workshop. So I think then that will help us expedite. It won't hold you back and push you into July. And then we can have this wrapped up before summer. Okay.
Okay, yep, and I will, hopefully the next couple weeks, or at least in March, I'll try to get as much done as I can. And then get those out to you right away, and then the week, like when I send out the agenda for the next, I'll try to do it the week before, and then you'll know which ones are coming to you, but I'll send them to you before that, and then you'll just know which ones are gonna be reviewed at that meeting, if that works.
Works for me.
Perfect.
All right. Since there's no further questions or comments, we'll now move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the public comment portion. And do we have anybody with public comment this evening?
We don't have anybody of the public.
All right.
None?
Thank you very much. As always, I like to at least recognize when we have the electeds here, and I appreciate, the Councilman Don Vanny here. Thank you very much for attending our meeting. Appreciate it. And I don't think I see anybody else here this evening. So at this point, the chair is going to request a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
you.
Thanks
Have a
again.
good night, everyone.
Night.
Night.
Nice to see you, Dawn.